Hello guys, how are you?
I'm Hardeep Singh. Welcome back to your own YouTube channel. IELTS updates and recent exams. For more updates related to recent IELTS exam writing test topics, listening, reading, practice test, and speaking, you got guesswork. Please, guys, participate in everyday listening and reading practice test to achieve your desired band score in your actual IELTS exam. Please hit the like and subscribe button. Press the bell icon for the upcoming notifications. Don't forget like, subscribe and share my YouTube channel and my Facebook page, IELTS updates and recent exams.
Part 1. You'll hear a student asking for advice on how to open a bank account. First, you have some time to look at questions 1 to 7. Listen carefully and answer questions 1 to 7. Hello, how can I help you?
Hi. I'd like to open a bank account, please. I think I've got all the documents I need with me.
OK, certainly. Now, are you a student here at the university?
Yes, I am. I've just started.
Right. Well, that means we can offer you our student package.
Could you explain exactly what that is, please?
Yes, of course. Well, basically, it's a current account with an instant overdraft facility of £500. After 6 months, we'll review that, and what usually happens if there haven't been any problems is we increase it to £1,000, and you can keep the overdraft for as long as you're a student.
That sounds good. Can I just ask a question about that, though?
Fire away.
Well, if I go overdrawn, am I charged? I mean, do I have to pay a fee?
No, it's an interest-free overdraft. As long as you're not overdrawn more than £500, there's no fee, and you're not charged interest. If you go more overdrawn than that, though, then of course you will be charged.
I see. Thanks. And do I get a cash point card and things like that?
Yes, absolutely. We'll give you a card for the cash machine with your own PIN code, and if you want one, you can also have a checkbook and check guarantee card.
Well, I'm not sure I need one, to be honest. Not many people use cheques anymore these days, do they?
Well, they can be useful for paying rent and things like that if you don't want to carry lots of cash with you.
True. Maybe it is a good idea to have one. What about a credit card?
Well, we don't offer a credit card as part of this package, but you can apply for one separately. I'll give you the form in a minute.
OK, thanks. So, what do I need to do to open the account?
Well, you need to give me some information and also deposit at least £180 into the account to start off. Do you have that much money on you right now?
Yes, I do.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 8 to 10. Now listen and answer questions 8 to 10. OK, great. So the only thing I need is some identification.
I've got my passport with me. Will that do?
Well, not really, to be honest, because it doesn't show your address and it doesn't show you're registered as a student. What we really need is your student ID card and either an official university letter with your current address on it or an electricity bill or something like that. Anything that shows where you're staying.
OK. Well, here's my university ID card.
Super.
And I've got this letter here from the Student Accommodation Service, showing which flat I'm in this year. Will that do?
Yes, that's perfect. I'll make a couple of photocopies of those in a moment if you don't mind.
No problem.
That is the end of part 1.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Now turns to part 2.
You'll hear a woman chairing a meeting of her local community centre. First, you have some time to look at questions 11 to 15. Now listen carefully and answer questions 11 to 15.
Hello everyone and welcome to the second meeting of the Howchester Community Centre Association. Now, as there are quite a few people here tonight who weren't at the first meeting last month, I think I should start by recapping what was decided last time, what our goals are and what we need to do tonight. So, let's start with our goals. Well, the main aim is to get a community centre built here in the village. We're a large village with a population of nearly 3,000, as you know, and it's become pretty clear over the last few years that we need some extra facilities. The village hall is over 100 years old. It's in a very bad state of repair, and there really isn't anywhere to have large functions or events in a nice setting. So, what we're proposing is that we draw up plans for a community centre that, ideally, would have a large function room with a stage for the Howchester players to put on productions, and, of course, a dressing room backstage for the actors to get into their costumes. A fitness centre, a sports hall, catering facilities, and 2 or 3 meeting rooms. Of course, we'll refine our ideas over the coming months, and what the centres actually like will partly depend on where it's built, but that's the main idea. Now, the plan is to apply for grants from the Lotteries Commission and the local council, but to do that, we'll have to become a charity. So, one of our immediate goals is to write a constitution, elect a board, and apply to the Charities Commission for charitable status. When we're legally recognised as a charity, we can start applying for funds. The second main thing we have to do is raise money. Hopefully, if we manage to get grants, a lot of the building costs will be covered by those, but we're still going to need to raise quite a lot of money for the initial stages. Just one example, we'll have to pay an architect to draw up the initial plans, and that'll cost several £1,000s. So, it's major fundraising activities for the next year or so. Hopefully, we'll have a lot of fun doing it, though, so it won't all be hard work.
Before you hear the rest of the talk, you have some time to look at questions 16 to 20. Now listen and answer questions 16 to 20.
And in fact, we've got our very first event planned for Saturday the 24th of March. Arthur Treby has kindly said we can use his barn, so we'll be holding a barn dance which should attract several hundred people, we hope. We've still got to work out the details. In fact, that's one of the things we have to do tonight. But if we charge £3 per person, we should make several £100 profit. Let's hope so. Before we come on to talk about that, though, we said last time that I would chair this meeting until we elect temporary officers who'll draw up the Constitution. Once we've got the Constitution, we'll then have a second election to elect the permanent officers. By permanent, I mean they'll keep their posts for a year. So, what we'll do in a few minutes is hold an election. The positions we need to fill are chairperson, secretary, and treasurer. I'm happy to stand for the position of chair, but if anyone else wants to stand, I won't be offended in the slightest. So please feel free. The chairperson basically will lead the meetings and try to keep everyone on track. The secretary will have to keep minutes of each meeting and read them out at the start of the next meeting, so it's probably a good idea if the secretary is good at taking notes and typing things up on a computer. The treasurer will be responsible for opening our bank account and keeping a record of all income and expenditure, so please don't put yourself forward if you hate dealing with money and figures. Now, even if you don't want to be an elected officer, there are still lots of things you can do, and I really do hope you all come to meetings regularly from now on. They'll be here on the first Thursday of each month. And remember, everyone's opinion counts, and everyone's ideas are useful. So, if you have any thoughts on anything, please don't hesitate to speak up. Now, I've been talking for far too long, so why don't we get down to business and elect the temporary officers?
That is the end of part 2.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Now turns to part 3.
You'll hear 2 university students discussing the speaking performance of a foreign language student they have just interviewed. First, you have some time to look at questions 21 to 27. Now listen carefully and answer questions 21 to 27. That was really interesting, wasn't it, Philippe?
Yes, it was. My arm's aching, though, from taking all those notes. But you did a good job, Sabira. It's not easy to keep the conversation going like that for an hour.
I enjoyed it. Did you manage to note down her main problem areas? You did seem to be writing a lot.
I think I've got the main points down. Shall we write our report now, while it's still fresh in our memories?
Yes, let's get it over with. Shouldn't take long. I'll do the writing, though, to give your arm a rest. So, name, Arzu. Nationality, Turkish. Length of time learning English, how long was it? Was it a year?
Bit longer, I think. Put 18 months.
OK. Now the categories are grammar, vocabulary and pronunciation. Shall we start with grammar?
Yes. Well, there were obviously a number of issues. I think the main one was use of tenses, wasn't it?
Yes, or lack of, to be more accurate. I don't think I heard one example of the present continuous, the present perfect, or the past simple. Did you?
She certainly mainly uses present simple. Though I have to say that although she didn't use be going to at all, I did notice a couple of occasions where she used will quite effectively to talk about the future, which I thought was quite good. The other thing I noted down was agreement.
What do you mean exactly?
Instead of saying she goes, for example, she has a tendency to say she go. The verb often doesn't agree with the pronoun she's using.
Oh, yes, I see. Yes, I noticed that too. Any other grammatical problems?
2 other major ones, I think. Firstly, her use of prepositions. She knows she has to use them and does try, but seems to make a lot of mistakes with them. I noted down look to the book instead of look at the book, go for swimming, buy for my brother a present. I stay in England since 1 year.
Yes, she definitely needs to focus on that. What was the other area? Let me guess. Forming questions.
Yup, absolutely. I don't think I've got one example of her using the form correctly. It was all, why do you decide become a teacher? Things like that.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 28 to 30. Now listen and answer questions 28 to 30. So if those were the main grammatical problems, let's move on to vocabulary. I thought the main problem was just her lack of a large vocabulary to draw on, didn't you?
Yes, totally. The words she knows she can use fairly well. It's just she doesn't know enough words yet.
The other thing I picked up on a few times was errors with irregular plurals. You know, she'd say child's for children. And I think she said sheep's, didn't she?
Yes, good point. And she kept saying persons instead of people, too. But the main point, really, is that she needs to expand her vocabulary as quickly as possible. It would really help her.
OK, let's just do pronunciation and then we've finished. I thought her pronunciation wasn't bad at all.
No. There were very few occasions when it was impossible to understand what she was saying. She definitely had an accent, though. I noticed that often sounded like dat or zat.
The other area I thought was quite a serious problem was the amount of hesitation in her speech. All the ums and ers between words. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, totally. I think it's because she's just not confident enough yet. We'll have to try and work on that in our classes with her next week.
Let's note it down then. Right, we've finished.
That is the end of part 3.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Now turns to part 4.
You'll hear a lecturer talking to students about the programme for the Screenplay Writers' Workshop. First, you have some time to look at questions 31 to 36. Now listen carefully and answer questions 31 to 36.
Hello, and welcome to this 6-week intensive Screenplay Writers Workshop. My name's Jake Mulligan, and I'm going to be your team leader during the course. I'll introduce you to the other instructors in a few minutes. What I'd like to do first of all, though, is just give you an overview of the syllabus for the next 6 weeks. So, in week 1, as well as studying a few things about the film and television business, you're going to focus on your writing strategy and start developing your script idea. By the end of the week, you'll have come up with your premise line, as we call it, which is an outline of your script in a single sentence. You'll have produced a longer synopsis of the plot, and you'll also have developed your character list. In the second week, we're going to be looking at the structure of a 3-act screenplay from the perspective of the protagonist, the main character. We'll give you the tools you need to turn your script idea into what we call a dynamic relationship adventure, or, in other words, a successful movie script. By the end of the week, you'll have produced a concept statement, 3 key scenes, and the script for the trailer for your film. In the third week, we're going to focus on 2 central aspects of a successful screenplay. In terms of structure and content, we're going to be looking at conflict. In terms of screenplay presentation, we're going to focus on formatting your screenplay to Hollywood requirements. Both of these will enable you to expand and develop your scenes and ensure you've got adequate conflict within your story, presented in the correct way. Week 4 provides you with an advanced scene checklist, which is designed to help you evaluate your own style and get you writing more visually. Part of this will involve looking at what you've already written and deciding which aspects of it should be cut and which should remain or need developing further. The 5th week is all about character. We'll be testing the motivations of your main character or characters and seeing how the supporting roles connect to your main character's journey through the film. Once again, we'll be giving you a checklist, this time a character checklist, for you to make sure that your characters are 3-dimensional, consistent, and most importantly, functionally important to the story. By the end of the final week, you'll have finished your first draft. So, in week 6, we'll be focusing on rewriting and reviewing. Remember that you've got 2 weeks from when this course ends to revise your first draft before you submit it to us for evaluation. So we'll be spending week 6 looking at what that revision process entails.
Before you hear the rest of the talk, you have some time to look at questions 37 to 40. Now listen and answer questions 37 to 40.
Now, if all that makes sense, let's come on to some practical information. Group sessions will be in here, Monday to Friday from 7:30 to 10 p.m. You're expected to attend every day, but if for any reason you can't attend, it's your responsibility to keep up. That means asking another student nicely if you can borrow their notes. Please do not ask us to recap what we said in the previous session because we haven't got time for that. Secondly, you're expected to keep up a vigorous writing schedule throughout the course. The bare minimum is 10 hours of writing each week. But to get the most out of the course, we actually recommend about double that if you can manage it. If you have any questions while you're working away, do feel free to email us. It may take us a few hours to get back to you, though, so don't stop writing while you're waiting for a response. Now, as I said, you've got 2 weeks after the course finishes to complete your script. Approximately 2 to 3 weeks after that, once we've had a chance to read and evaluate your material, we'll contact you to arrange a time for a half-hour phone conference. One of the instructors or myself will talk you through our evaluation and give you some pointers to help you tighten up your script further. We'll also send you a written evaluation through the post. Oh yes, one other thing about when we get together in the evenings. You are, of course, allowed to take notes during the sessions, and we'll also be giving you a large number of handouts. But we do have a strict policy of no recording devices, so you can't bring a tape recorder or anything like that with you, I'm afraid. So, at this point, does anyone have any questions?
That is the end of part 4.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
So guys, don't forget like, subscribe and share my YouTube channel and my Facebook page, IELTS updates and recent exams. For more updates related to recent IELTS exam writing test topics, listening, reading, practice test and speaking, you got guesswork. Please guys, participate in everyday new IELTS listening and reading practice tests to achieve your desired band score in your actual IELTS exam. For more IELTS material, visit my official website www.ieltsupdatesandrecentexams.com. The link is given below in the description. If you need PDF files of latest IELTS material, then please join my Telegram channel. So guys, please write your score below the comment section. Again, thanks for listening. God bless you all guys. Stay tuned, stay safe.